Spiderweb Speech 2, Israeli media on Saeed Nasrallah's speech. This is almayadeen.net. Israeli media says Syed Hassan Nasrallah's recent speech revived the cobweb theory of Israeli society. An article published in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz touched on the recent speech delivered by Hezbollah's Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah. This speech said that it's being described in Israel as a spiderweb speech too. At the celebration of the liberation of southern Lebanon from the Israeli occupation on May 25, 2000, Saeed Nasrallah described Israel as weaker than a spider's web. The article said that a second security development is taking place in Lebanon, of all places, an arena that was supposed to become quiescent following the signing of the maritime border agreement with Israel last October. It claimed that Saeed Nasrallah discerns from his viewpoint on internal weakness in Israel against the background of the broad constitutional and political crisis and is starting to issue threats. It highlighted that Saeed Nasrallah's words were accompanied by steps on the ground, including the alleged arrival of Iranian air defense systems to Lebanon, which eroded the Israeli Air Force's superiority in the skies, in addition to the deployment of dozens of Hezbollah observation points along the border with occupied Palestine. In the same context, an article published in the Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv considered that the Hezbollah Secretary General pounced on the deep crisis afflicting Israeli society. It said that Saeed Nasrallah's words threatened to expose the consensus necessary for joint service in the occupation army and to expose the solidarity of the majority of the different population groups in society during any future fighting. The article indicated that the Lebanese leader once again revived the cobweb theory of Israeli society, warning that from week to week, the crisis inside Israel becomes more dangerous. In a related context, the Ma'ariv article pointed to the state of frustration and despair that prevails in the general atmosphere in Israel, highlighting that Israel is going through horrible days, which may lead the Zionist dream to an unprecedented rift and perhaps even its end. Ma'ariv concluded that millions of Israelis feel that it's the end of the world. Israeli dilemma in facing Iranian nuclear file. On its part, the Israeli Channel 12 broadcasted an extensive report that included interviews with former Israeli occupation officers on the Israeli dilemma in facing the Iranian nuclear file. The report said that they will not be surprised in Israel by the reported information that Iran has succeeded in enriching uranium in small quantities to the level of 84%. And this has been known here for a long time. We actually covered that pretty extensively here on TR News, especially the idea that uranium can be enriched past the amount that a centrifuge would like for it to be enriched just by happenstance. It claimed that the Iranians have now reached the last red line, the ability to enrich to a level of 90%, sufficient to produce enough materials for a nuclear bomb. The channel wondered about the capabilities of Israel in exchange for this Iranian step, saying, "What can we really accomplish?" And also from Al-Mayadeen, chaos in Lebanon to extend to U.S. protege Israel, Saeed Nasrallah says. Hezbollah chief Saeed Hassan Nasrallah underlines that the chaos the West is planning for Lebanon would engulf the whole region in flames, especially the Israeli occupation. The resistance accomplishments were all only realized due to the blood of the commanders and the martyrs in all resistance factions, the Lebanese army, the Palestinian resistance factions, and the Syrian Arab army. Hezbollah Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah said on Thursday, during a speech commemorating the commanders of the resistance, "Commemorating the martyred commanders each year is an expression of our loyalty and appreciation for them, their struggle, their sacrifices, as well as their venerable Saeed Abbas al-Musawi's wife, Yasser, said Saeed Nasrallah said. He also lauded the resistance commanders, underlining how they adhered to resistance despite all the difficulties and betrayals they faced. Commemorating them aims to serve as a reminder and reintroduce them once again because many of those from the new generation might not know what happened 30 or 40 years ago," he said. "Much can be inspired by their stories. in the face of the current circumstances and challenges. Conserving resistance vital. The resistance accomplishments are everyone's responsibility, and this is an ongoing battle. The most important issue in which is conserving those. There's an ongoing battle in the face of the U.S. media, the politics, and economic tools at the forefront of which is the dollar rate in Lebanon, Saeed Hassan Nasrallah said. What helps the Americans in their plans is there being corruption and administrative issues in their target country, the Lebanese resistance leader said, underlining the need for initiatives and plans against the planned chaos, the hegemony, and the brainwashing against our people. Additionally, the Hezbollah chief stressed that if Lebanon's pushed into chaos, then the world must brace for chaos all over the region, most notably within your protege, Israel. As we were prepared for war in defense of our gas, just as we are prepared to point our guns at our protege Israel, he added. Regarding the extraction of gas from the Mediterranean, the resistance leader highlighted that the resistance would never allow the postponing of the extraction of oil from Lebanese waters, warning against any postponement of the sort and telling Americans to stay away from the issue. Saeed Nasrallah mourns earthquake victims, and that is not related. This is presidency issue must be resolved. The agreement with the Free Patriotic Movement is in critical condition, the Hezbollah chief said, hoping that the accords preserved for the sake of national interest. There's nothing new regarding the Lebanese presidential issue, he revealed. This merits internal, and no one can impose a president on the country. It's necessary for the state to continue looking for ways to solve the issue of the presidency. What's currently taking place in Lebanon, Saeed Nasrallah said, mainly the unrefined or the unreined dollar rate that's on the rise, is due to U.S. pressure and the monitoring of funds being drawn from banks. There needs to be an effort aimed at bolstering the Lebanese economy and looking for alternative markets such as China and Russia, he underscored. We cannot wait to satisfy the Americans for our crisis to be resolved, and there are no limits to the U.S. demands in any direct negotiations. Occupation government pushing toward major clashes. Regarding the domestic situation in the Israeli occupation, Saeed Nasrallah stressed that the foolish enemy government is pushing toward two major clashes. The first clash is an internal Israeli conflict, while the other is a conflict within Palestine, he clarified. The confrontation with Palestine might extend to include the rest of the region. The internal situation in Israel is unprecedented, especially in light of certain Israeli parties talking about internal war, he added. The president of the occupation himself admitted to fearing an imminent internal expansion and the occupation collapsing. We highly revere the Palestinian people, especially the young generation in Al-Quds, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, he continued. The region is before real Palestine resistance and a real Palestinian intifada, and they're both embraced by the Palestinian people. The West aiming to undermine Iran. There was no coverage in Western media and certain Arab media of the mass rallies that took place in Iran on the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, in which millions took to the streets, Saeed Nasrallah highlighted. The Western world ignored the million-strong rally in Iran at a time when it focused on some riots to incite against Iran. Iranians took to the streets of more than 1,400 Iranian cities to commemorate the 44th anniversary of the victory of the Islamic Revolution. And we're going to retrieve some data just a moment. Okay, so before we moved on, I just wanted to show a bit of footage of the Iranian 44th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution here. Iranians revere Islamic Revolution. Celebrations across 1,400 cities. Plunging us into security situation has shown us that at these 44 years we do not appreciate the revolution. Today, in the light of these events, I've come with my family to ensure to pay tribute to the revolution, she says. Tens of thousands of Iranians arrive at Azadi Square. Iranians chant, display. There's a 2-year gap. This is since 79. 44 years. So yeah, of course, this is skipped over in Western media, but there is patriotism and pro-Islamism in Iran for sure. All right, so there we are. Watch this space. Remember, your engagement through a like, share, and subscribe will propel us at warp speed towards the continuation of our mission to truthfully go where no news will have been going before.